Welcome everyone to Comics from the Multiverse, episode 381. I am Peter, and joining me as always is Matt.
Hey, let's get it cracking.
I wasn't thinking of big, large monsters that came out of the sea, but now I am.
Or hockey teams in Seattle.
Nope, that was never, ever what was going to be in my head. All I know about hockey is that someone got their throat slit, like, in the past couple of weeks. So,
yeah. In the UK league, it's really grisly, and I didn't go and look at the video. I just,
I would probably recommend not looking at the video.
Yep.
Because it was being televised, so obviously it was all captured on...
Yep. Connor messaged me, and he goes, "Did you hear about this?" And I was like, "No." And he goes, "Don't go looking for the video. It's grisly." And I was like, "Don't you worry, buddy."
Yeah. Speaking of Grizzly, where is Connor, you might be asking? Connor is at Thought Bubble this weekend, so he might even have some scoops when he gets back. I don't know.
Hopefully.
He might know things about comics. That'd be a first. But...
for the first time ever.
So, this is a DC Comics podcast. We talk about DC books we read every week. Coming up on this week's show, we have Batman 1 through 9, Birds of Prey issue 3, Shazam issue 5, Poison Ivy 16, Blue Beetle issue 3, and I get a Patreon book of Batman and the Outsiders issue 8. So that's what's coming up on the show. So it's a later week one. Things are busier over the next couple of weeks, as it's kind of been typical these past few months. So, but yeah, we'll get into everything. Before we do though, so the new Marvel movie is out this weekend, The Marvels, as it is titled, which I have no real interest in seeing. I've not seen the last few outside of Guardians. I'm just, I'm out. It's fine. But the reason why I wanted to bring it up is because it's tracking to have a really low box office and it's not doing well internationally and all that stuff. All signs are pointing to it being one of the lowest performing movies they've ever done, one of the biggest drops from a first movie to a second movie. The first movie made like $1 billion. This one might make 200 million worldwide when it's done. That seems to be kind of the rough estimates. It's tracking for a lower opening weekend than The Flash. So, but the reason I don't really want to talk too much about the MCU, because like honestly, I'm sick of talking about the MCU. Right, like the bubble burst for me a long time ago. I think there's a general fatigue when it comes to that whole thing. Anyway, I think the more interesting thing that's more relevant to our show is: do you think the fatigue of the MCU is inherently a problem for DC movies? Not so much the next couple that are, like Aquaman 2. I'm thinking more when James Gunn's new universe sort of kickstarts properly with the Superman movie. I would have to say that they've got a bigger uphill battle, just because I think the feeling of superhero movies in general right now is that, no, we're sick of those. We want other things. And that's why Oppenheimer and Barbie and even the Mario movie did so well this year, whilst everything else Disney are pumping out all pretty much plummeted. So
yeah, I definitely think there's an oversaturation across the board with things, and that's why the Barbies and the Oppenheimers and Marios kind of stood out, because those are all adaptations, right? I mean, Oppenheimer's based on a true story.
Yeah. I don't know if you call it, I guess it is an adaptation technically. I don't tend to think of based on a true story as an adaptation, but I guess in a way it is an adaptation of true life.
Yeah, because it's not fully original, right? Like, it's based off of actual things that happened.
It's not a new IP, I suppose, is the way you'd put it.
No, and and of course they added their own narratives to make it fit whatever story they're telling and stuff. But I definitely think there's a fatigue across both TV and movies when it comes to big time superhero stuff like The Boys and Invincible. I feel because they have their own niche, right? And they have, pretty good word of mouth and critical praise. I think people still get excited for those. But when you look at a lot of like the Marvel shows and that type of stuff, I think people are they're kind of like, oh, I'll get to it when I get to it. Well, there's no appointment type stuff anymore.
I think the thing is, though, The Boys still feels like it has something to say when you get in your season of that, or even Gen V, its spin-off that just happened.
Gen V is something that I wasn't aware of actually what it was until I had talked to you, and then I looked it up. Because there was just genuine buzz across my social medias about it. Which I can't say the same when it comes to typical superhero movies and Star Wars, for that matter.
Yeah, no, it's true. Well, what they've done to Marvel, they've kind of also done. They did it to Star Wars quicker, amazingly, which is mind-boggling if you think back to like just a decade ago. If you'd said, "Oh, Disney are going to start pumping out Star Wars movies," and don't get me wrong, there's always going to come a point when the general audience is going to turn on something and they're going to get sick of it. But if you told me how quickly that was going to happen with Star Wars once they started pumping those out, I'd have said you were crazy. There was no way that in less than 5 years people are going to be sick of Star Wars and one of them will have bombed. But it happened. Yeah. Solo kind of bombed, and yeah.
Well, Solo, Rise of Skywalker, both of those didn't do as well as.
No, Rise of Skywalker still made a lot of money. Like that was still like $1 billion, yeah, or close to at least, yeah. Wow. So don't be wrong, it was still a significant bit down from Force Awakens, which was breaking all sorts of records. I think it was $2 billion at the box office, but it's just like I think that honestly Disney Plus might be the worst thing that happened to the MCU. I think it just diluted everything. It's made people feel like it's too much to keep up on, and probably just made people realize, because I did some math the other day. I was curious, so if you add up all of the hours of the MCU up until Endgame, including Endgame, so keep in mind that's 2008 to 2019. That's 11 years of movies. It adds up to just under 50 hours, right? It was like 49 hours and something. All of the content after Endgame, which is 2020 to now, and this is not including the Marvels or even the 2 seasons of What If. I just kind of left that separate. Yeah. It was like 54 hours something in just 4 years. So I think that puts it in perspective just how much more content they're cranking out on a yearly basis. So we'll see how it goes. But I mean, I think when you look at their list of movies that are coming out over the next couple of years, and they just delayed a bunch of them. There's only one coming out in 2024 now, and that's Deadpool. Everything else has been pushed to at least 2025. It doesn't look at like, something tells me that Thunderbolts or Captain America 4 or these other movies that are planned, I don't see them being huge hits again.
I remember talking about this maybe 8 years ago with the Star Wars and the Marvel, and being like, I think it's a little bit too much. It's when Marvel started popping out 2 or 3 movies a year. So whenever that started to really get into the...
It was phase 3, which funnily enough is where I started to feel it. Civil War was the movie where I went, oh, I think this isn't working for me that much anymore. Yeah. And I still liked Infinity War and Endgame, but a lot of phase 3 I was more lukewarm on. And then I didn't even stand a chance with phase 4, but phase 4 seems to be the phase that's killed a lot of other people's interest.
But I remember trying to point this out to people. I'm like, man, it's a lot. And so I remember people telling me, like, just be happy with what you get. You should be just happy that they're putting out all of these superhero movies. I'm like, yeah, but if it's to varying qualities, it's gonna hurt in the long run, isn't it? And I didn't want it to, right? I want this stuff to succeed. Although secretly, I do kind of miss the outsider aspect of like Star Wars and comics, to where not everybody had opinion about them. Well, yelling it into the void.
The good news for you, Matt, and you're going to like this. So you're going to feel old as I tell you this.
Yeah.
But apparently, right, one of the reasons why the movies aren't maybe doing quite as well is that the MCU is more of a millennial thing, and the Zoomers aren't as into it and don't really care about it. Right. So part of it may just be that we're aging out. I mean, I was already sick of it anyway, so it's not like it applies to all millennials. But
I wouldn't think that you have typical taste of millennials. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like you've always been a bit away from all of that stuff. Like you were brought here by the Nolan Bat movies, right? Versus me, where I've come in with like all sorts of superhero stuff back from the 90s cartoons and whatnot.
I did grow up watching Batman the Animated Series now. That's not pretending.
Yeah, but like, were you reading comics in those times?
No, I didn't read comics until I was a teenager. That was a later thing.
Right, and so like again, and I wasn't reading them every month, but like my first Flash comic was a Mark Waid one from like '93 that I remember buying at the grocery store. So like I do feel that despite us being kind of close in age, it's almost kind of too. Like I always say you're a special case. I always check with a couple people on certain things, and you're one of them. So 'cause that's where I can get my barometer. but yeah, I want this stuff to be good because I generally do like going to the movies and seeing like big superhero-y stuff. It's just I think the fatigue's there too. Even for me and my wife. My wife loves all the Marvel stuff, and Marvel's is the first. I think it's the first MCU movie that we're not seeing opening weekend, and it's kind of like, oh, do you want to go to the theater? Not really. It might be on Disney Plus soon. Although, again, a lot of people that I trust are saying good things about it, so that might be enough to get me to the theaters. But it is kind of sad, and I am worried about Superman because I feel like Superman always takes the brunt of all of this stuff. Whether it be Returns or Man of Steel and now Legacy, I always just feel like the timing's a little bit off for Clark.
That's a good point. They always seems to. Returns came at a time before we weren't in MCU land yet, and we were just trying to sort of be nostalgia filled for the old movies with what they were doing. Man of Steel was the wrong creative, trying to sort of both bank off the MCU being a big thing by that point, but also sort of follow up Nolan's trilogy and kind of whiffing on both of those fronts. And then Legacy could have this unfortunate. I mean, this is the sad part, is that a lot of these movies are quite mediocre, and I think a lot of the Marvel movies are mediocre. The sad part is, though, is that if Superman Legacy is like a genuinely fantastic Superman movie, it might still bomb, because the simple truth is that the general audience don't think Superman's as cool, and not only that, they're not excited by superheroes anymore. And that's the big thing that I keep seeing people talking about. A lot of Phase 4 and 5 are all these like B, C tier characters and whatnot, and Marvel could get away with that with, say, Guardians of the Galaxy, because everyone said when Guardians was coming out, no one knows who these guys are.
Well,
and it didn't matter, because the wave was riding high, the movie was good, and it did well. Now, though, you put out, whatever character, or even the Marvels, like one of them was already in a movie, the other two were only on Disney Plus shows, and it feels like no one gives a shit. And I feel like inspiring that in people again is going to be quite tough. I think the simple truth is that none of these things can ever last forever, and companies always want them to last forever. They always want infinite growth, and I will say that purely from an analyzing the industry point of view, because again, I'm out in the MCU, I don't give a shit. I don't want to watch any of these things anymore, really. But just from analyzing the industry and the choices that Kevin Feige gets to make over the next few years, or even if he's the one making the choices, if Disney aren't happy with what's going on, all of that's going to be interesting to watch, just as a sort of casual observer who's not really investing in the actual content itself. But yeah, that makes it easier to just kind of watch the fireworks, I guess, from my perspective.
Yeah, and that's the thing too, is like, if you go and you watch these movies and you like them, cool. If you don't like them, I'm sorry, but like, I'm just gonna sit back on the sidelines and just try to enjoy the things that I enjoy, and as of right now, I can't tell you the last movie I was excited to go see at the movie theater, and that's not including like a superhero thing. I just think right now, because of all the things that have been going on in the industry, it's kind of in this weird place.
Wait, so you're saying you can't remember the last time you were excited for a non-superhero movie?
Yeah.
I don't know. Were you excited for Oppenheimer?
I still haven't seen Oppenheimer.
Well, fair enough.
I mean, we went and saw Barbie, and like I didn't have, I love Ryan Gosling. He's my favorite actor. I like Margot Robbie enough, but like I wasn't like champing at the bit for Barbie. So
I don't know.
I mean, I can tell you, I'm very excited for The Fall Guy. We got Gosling teaming up with David Leitch, who I'm a fan of. So to do an adaptation of a property I have zero familiarity.
I mean, I was excited for Oppenheimer. I was excited for Avatar: Way of the Water end of last year. I was relatively excited for Evil Dead Rise. Like there's movies coming out.
Okay, I'll tell you, Evil Dead. I was excited for Evil Dead. Yeah. But yeah, it's just one of those things. I also feel like, a mind hole right now though too, because it's been a tough year to be honest. So try to remember everything. I'm sure we could find if we ran through all the movies that came out. I'd probably be proved wrong. There's probably one that came out a couple months ago that I was super stoked for. But yeah, I feel like it's been a minute. You know, even something like Thor Ragnarok, where Thor's one of my dudes, I was just kind of like, yeah, okay, and that was last year. That was over a year ago at this point.
Ragnarok was like 6 years ago, Matt. You're thinking of Love and Thunder.
Not Ragnarok, Love and Thunder. I'm sorry. No, Ragnarok I was super stoked on. And I still love it. It's in my top 5. You know. But yeah.
Oh, well, top 5 Marvel movies, right? Not top 5 of all
not
time.
Top 5 movies.
Jesus.
No. It wasn't directed or produced by Spielberg, so it has no chance of getting into my top 5.
Weird. Just, yeah, absurd. Yeah. I would add Prey to this list, except it never came out in theaters, the bastards.
Yeah. Prey was fun, but yeah, I'm talking about the surely the theater going experience. You know, nothing that's been streaming, because there's been a lot of streaming movies that I got excited when it came sat down to watch. But
I don't think there's many streaming movies I've been excited for. It's few and far between I do get excited for one. I mean, I think there's things to be excited for next year. You know, I'm looking forward to a few things. But honestly, the best theatrical experiences I tend to be the movies that I don't know about until maybe a month or two before they come out. It's not the big franchise sequels that you know about a year or two in advance. It's the stuff that just springs out of nowhere. You're like, hey, this movie looks cool. Hell, even something like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem, which was kind of surprisingly getting so much buzz. I was like, oh, all of a sudden I'm excited for that now, because apparently it's meant to be good.
And it delivered. I thoroughly enjoyed that. I watched that last week on streaming, and it was fantastic. So wish I would have seen it in the theater. Then I could probably say Mutant Mayhem was the last one. Yeah. You know? But yeah. I'm trying to delay Comixology, but I got nothing else to add to this conversation.
All right, well, since you're so desperate for it, Matt, Comixology Top 10 is starting of the show. Here we go, even though we talked for 15 minutes about something else already. But yes, welcome everyone. We're going to get into the top 10 books as ranked right now on Comixology for this week. We'll be looking at Tuesday and Wednesday separately, because that's how they're split up. And Tuesday's obviously DC Day, so we'll start with that. Matt, what do you think number 1 was for Tuesday as of right now?
I'm going to guess Batman.
It is Batman, unfortunately. Number 2 is Shazam. Number 3 is Birds of Prey. And I would say that, I mean, I think Batman's not that good right now, but I do think at least the other 2 books that should be there up at the top 3 are both there this week. So I'm pleased with that.
If Batman was called something else, and it wasn't the main Bat title, do we think it would sell as much as it does?
No.
Yeah.
No.
So if this was like Shadows of the Bat, you know, same creative team and everything, I don't think. But yeah.
Yeah. Number 4 is Superman 78.
Okay.
Yeah, the new miniseries that's got. Number 5 is Joker, the Man Who Stopped Laughing. Number 6 is Fire and Ice. Number 7 is Blue Beetle. Number 8 is Poison Ivy. Number 9 is Icon versus Hardware issue 5. And number 10, and we're at a single issues now, we have Commander, the Last Boy on Earth. And this is a huge $40 collection. So I'm assuming this is, 20 issues are in this bad boy. So this is one of those thick collections, yeah. Very good, very good. So that's cool. Oh, a Cyberpunk 2077 book's number 11. That's interesting. But you've got other collections and stuff. Yeah, not a lot of single issues out this week. Certainly not at the main books. And then some of the more side books sort of making up most of the top 10, and then collections. So not much to say for Tuesday this week. But let's have a look at Wednesday. You got a guess for number 1. Let's see if your system works.
Yeah, let's see. I'm double checking to make sure there's no like special type thing. I don't see one, which leads me to an X book. Now, there's 3 different X books I can pick from. I'm going to go with Uncanny Spider-Man.
Nope.
Dang. All right. X-Men Red.
That is correct. X-Men Red is number 1. Number 2 is Marvel Gods, issue 2. That's the Hickman event or whatever it is.
Okay. Yeah. I didn't realize that was Marvel because the cover.
Yeah, it's got a different type of cover.
It's got a different kind of cover, so I didn't even. I thought that was some independent book.
I think I made that mistake last month because I think Connor was on this episode last month,
Okay.
and I was like, "Oh, it's not a Marvel book," and I went, "Oh no, it is. It's this Hickman doing his Marvel thing." Number 3 is X-Force. Number 4 is Uncanny Spider-Man. Number 5 is Amazing Spider-Man. Uncanny, but Spider-Man selling more than Amazing Spider-Man. That's interesting. Number 6 is Thanos, a new miniseries that started. Number 7 is Punisher, also a new miniseries. Number 7 is Star Wars: The High Republic. So that was number 8. Number 9 is Star Wars: The High Republic Shadow of Starlight. And then number 10 is Star Wars: Darth Vader. So 3 Star Wars books all at the bottom of the top 10.
Yeah, I'm not seeing on League of Comic Geeks. I'm only seeing... Oh, there they are. Okay. So they were kind of down. The last 2, the High Republic ones, were kind of down. But Darth Vader was up high on League of Comic Geeks.
Yeah. So... Yeah, there's a lot of the covers have a Marvel's banner at the top. They're advertising the movie. Although Jonathan Hickman's too important for an advert on his cover, so he doesn't get one. That's interesting.
He overwrote it.
I see a Star Trek comic with Worf on the cover at number 15.
Nice.
So that's fun.
That's good.
Yeah, there's a Street Fighter comic. There's some more Star Trek. Yeah, interesting batch of things here. But yeah. But honestly, it feels like there was a little bit less Marvel this week. I think they maybe put out a lot in the 5th week, so their week one's a little bit later as a result. So there you go. There's the Comixology top 10 for the week. Everyone's favorite segment, especially Matt. Let's get on to the comics then. We got Batman 139, Legacy 904, Chip Zdarsky writing with Jorge Jimenez on the art. Matt, I'm not happy reading this book. You know that?
Yeah, me neither. So I feel like the monkey paw curse came in. Because remember the last couple issues we've been talking about Zdarsky? I'm like, man, I wish this was more like the Night. Maybe I'd enjoy it more if it was like the Night. And now he's incorporating elements from the Night, and I don't want it to be like the Night. That monkey's paw.
It's worse. It's like as soon as he started bringing up Batman's like training days and traveling, and he started referencing multiple characters from multiple of those issues, I was like, oh no, this just reeks of like I don't want to sound too harsh, but it kind of feels like, oh, I wrote all this, so I'm going to reference all of it repeatedly now in my ongoing Batman comic. I don't know.
I made the continuity. I can use the continuity.
Yeah.
But like in when I said more like the Night, I was talking more in tone, not in story and characters, you know? But yeah. Question about the Joker. When did he learn that Bruce is Batman?
Do you know what's funny about that question, Matt? Do you know what's funny about that?
What's funny about that?
I was going to ask you the same thing.
Okay. Because is this a thing that's happening in Man Who Stopped Laughing? Is this because they reference that?
They reference that. Do you know what? It might have been in that Joker book that Gordon was the main character of that I did read some of, but I don't remember. I assumed I'd just forgotten something, but clearly he knows who Batman is, and he references it repeatedly. I love a good Joker story. I do, right? It's really easy to be cool and say you don't like Joker stories and that you like other Bat villains these days, but a great Joker story is still fantastic when it's done right. And because Zdarsky's voice for Bruce has been off for me pretty much his entire run, but especially since the multiverse arc really kicked in, I was not looking forward to him doing Joker, especially since the lead into it last issue, that event was bringing back up the 3 Jokers thing, which he references again here. Bruce is like, hey, I'll go take down all 3 of these bastards. And I'm like, okay, I guess we're dealing with that when we could have just let that be out of continuity, but okay.
Yeah. So I'm only going to keep reading this book, A, because it comes out on a slower week, and B, there's a train wreck quality that I want to know how messy this can get.
I think it's a train wreck quality, but also Batman is obviously the biggest character at DC, so therefore the Batman book is the biggest ongoing book, so we probably should talk about it.
Yes, however, if something's going to be continually bumming me out, I have other Bat books I can read, you know?
I know, but like you say, it's a quiet week that it's out on, so it's easy enough to just...
There is a genuine, and usually I thought I got away from this, to where it's like, only read stuff that you're enjoying. But on Batman, I've been reading Batman for forever. I probably have more Batman comics than I have anything else, just because I don't think I've ever had a break in collecting, right? So just out of keeping the streak going, there's that. But then I'm just like, where is this going? How is he going to incorporate the three Jokers? Why does Joker know that Bruce is Batman? How does Zur-En-Arrh factor in all this? There's so many plates spinning, and they all look like they're going to crash. I need to know how many are going to crash.
Yeah, I mean, as far as Joker knowing that Batman's Bruce, I'm just assuming that happened in a book, and I either didn't read it, or I've just forgotten about it, and that's fine, right? I'll accept that's something that's been established, and I just don't know about it. That's okay. But the other stuff, though, which is how we're dealing with three, because it doesn't really come up again in this issue. Like the build up to the Joker after the opening stuff, you know, Bruce has in his narration that he's coming for all three Jokers. He's looking for the Joker, right? He's waiting for him to strike. That's all fine, but it never comes up again that there's three Jokers. It's just a build to the Joker's appearance at that point.
Yeah.
And so how they're going to be doing anything with that, I don't know. But the Zur-En-Arrh stuff, of course, is that the book, you know, Joker, there's a crime scene. Joker's killed someone and left kind of a David Fincher 7-esque crime scene for Batman to find, and there's dead bats all nailed to the floor, and Batman figures out that this is all correlating to a map because there's an N meaning north, and he's like, oh wait, this is all the locations I traveled to when I was training to become Batman, and this is where all the Batman the Night references come in, and he mentions the various characters. The prominent one that comes up a lot in this issue is the cat burglar from
the
France. Yeah,
the French lady.
Joker even has her kidnapped at one point, although it seems like she escaped, but honestly, it feels a bit fishy to me. I'm not convinced that she did escape. But basically, the murdered guy is the heir to this fortune. He's got this family that made riches by selling dolls to children, right? This was a family fortune, and Batman goes to check out the grandmother, who's the one who actually made the fortune, in her mansion, and that's where a lot of the issue takes place, where he's going through, and Joker's booby-trapped the shit out of this place. Some of the dolls are spewing fire at him. There's a big baby doll. It's actually a Joker henchman dressed up as a big doll.
I did like that. That was a fun little sequence, but I feel like a lot of that's on Jimenez on the art.
Oh yeah, because the art's obviously typically really good because it's Jimenez. Yeah. I don't have any bad words to really say about the art.
No, the art, all that's there, and that especially, I went back and looked over that sequence because it is kind of surreal to see Batman fighting a gigantic baby, and then he knocks the head off, and there's a Joker under there, and it ends up being Joker's henchman. But it's again, there's a quality to it that I enjoyed.
Yeah. So yeah, we see that Joker has the French woman kidnapped from Batman the Night, but she seemingly gets away from him, and it's not clear if this is a live feed or if it's something that was recorded earlier. But Joker's watching from the cracks in the floor or the ceiling above, and Batman figures it out, but he falls down to a display that the Joker set up. So the Joker, now knowing who Bruce Wayne is, that he's Batman, has set up a series. Well, I'll call it the death hallway, where so there's like dolls replicating the death of the Waynes. Which, by the way, this image of Bruce kneeling down with the circular light around him and his dead parents on the ground, like
it used to be such a great Stark image from year one, right?
But it's been overused so much. So
overused, it means nothing. And that, again, this is the type of stuff that bums me out. We're just beating a dead horse. You know?
Like, the only nice thing I'll say about this is, one, Batman's not hallucinating it.
Yeah.
And I guess, two, there's no perils to be seen.
Yet.
Yeah.
Give it time.
Yeah.
Give it time.
But of course, Batman 900 was the one that had the... No, it was one of the Nightmare issues that had the giant perils. But Batman 900... It was one of the
Nightmares.
Yeah, but Batman 900 definitely had a reference to it, which is not surprising, I guess, because it's 900.
Because he was jumping through all the different timelines.
That's right. Yeah. But then look, the next spotlight's got a dead Robin, then dead Alfred, and then a dead Selina, which actually I had to... So it got to this point, right? And Bruce mentioned in his narration that Selina's presumed dead, and I stopped and went, what? What's he talking about? right?
She fell in the hole.
And I went back and checked that last event issue. Oh yeah, she fell in the hole, and the ending was just a tease that she was maybe on the roof, but we don't know for sure. And I'm like, okay, all right, she's presumed dead technically. I just don't believe it for a second, so I guess this just caught me off guard that this is the status quo right now.
Yeah.
Anyway, he finds Joker sitting up on his throne in this mansion.
Look, I don't like the Joker, but this is a baller move. Him sitting in the white suit too, which I do love. Like the purple suit's iconic, but the white suit Joker, that's kind of reminiscent of Dark Knight Returns. I like seeing that here.
And he says, I want to see the real you, Batman. And Batman feels himself getting woozy. He's like, what did you do? And he's like, no, this wasn't me, this was you. And this is Zur-En-Arrh taking over. And Zur-En-Arrh's like, I'm going to finally do what I should have done. I'm going to kill you. And Joker's laughing because he sees this as the real Batman finally coming out. And the final page is that Batman's trapped in his own head with an army of Zur-En-Arrh Batmans. We've got Michael Keaton Zur-En-Arrh, we've got Adam West Zur-En-Arrh, we got animated series Zur-En-Arrh, we got Batman Beyond Zur-En-Arrh, we've got 60s Zur-En-Arrh, we got old school comics, we got Scarecrow Zur-En-Arrh, I think that, I don't know what one that is.
Yeah, I don't know who that one is above the animated series one, but it looks like Mignola version, like Gotham by Gaslight.
Dark Knight Returns at the top.
Dark Knight above him, That's too many Zur-En-Arrhs.
That's the only one that I can't name is that top right one. But I saw this page and I just started laughing maniacally because I'm not liking this story. I'm not liking like the idea of like Bruce being in a battle in his own head, the idea that his conscience and like the good side of him is fighting with this urge to just be as violent as possible. Is it an interesting concept that I could see being done well? I hate how Zdarsky's exploring it. I hate how he's writing it, and I hate how it's been represented.
And that's the thing, too, is about Zur-En-Arrh killing Joker, doing what needs to be done. It's like, is it, though? Because we already had the failsafe story, right? About Bruce possibly taking a life, and that was Penguin and all of that. And now he's almost bringing it full circle, which I kind of appreciate. With the whole Zur-En-Arrh of this now. Almost like it was Zur-En-Arrh's plan to enact the failsafe for Bruce to defeat the failsafe, so now Zur-En-Arrh can take full control.
Did he fight the last I remember, failsafe just disappeared. We don't know where failsafe is right now, do we?
I thought he defeated it because he died, right? And it went back into...
Wouldn't it
Did he not?
Yeah, but wouldn't it just come back if he kills someone?
Well, and this is where I think, is it coming full circle? If Zur-En-Arrh thinks that it beat the failsafe, because this was the whole machination, the because Batman of it all, right?
Joe, I'll tell you what I don't want here, right? One, if Zur-En-Arrh kills someone, that still counts as Batman killing, so I do not like that at all, because that's still part of him. Because this is not like he's been possessed by someone else. This is still something that's created within himself. But two... Is this the weird, like, oh, he's killed the Joker, but don't worry, there's two more because we've established there's three of them.
And the fact that he's wearing the white suit, which is when Joker killed himself in Dark Knight Returns, spoilers, guys. But I figure if you made it this far with us, you've read Dark Knight Returns. But I feel like that's what a call out to that is. So who knows? I don't know, man. The art's good. Jimenez, like the art style and all the Zur-En-Arrhs, they're all different. They're all,
yeah, can I also just say, at the start of the book, he's got an alias where he's living in an apartment so the Bat family can't find him. He says that because his family have turned against him, like, his real name and having a place under his real name is a target right now, so he can't let them interfere with his mission. And I'm just like, I just don't think that the story we just had, the Gotham Mora, was enough to justify this weird rift between Batman and the rest of the Bat family. It just all rings hollow with me, and this run's shit. I'm just going to say it. I kind of hate this run now. It's
going down as one of the worst ones I've been reading, and I've read a lot of rough Batman runs.
I'm going to keep reading because, like you say, the car crash quality, and I have to know. And I'm being pretty good with not reading other books that I don't like, so I can stomach one. a month.
Yeah, well, and again, if this came out on a week where I was slammed, I'd be like, I don't know if I'm reading Batman, but this is a very, very quiet week, and I already dropped Fire and Ice, you know? So, yeah. Also, we had the doll punching Batman page, and that makes this issue worth it enough for me.
Yeah. Well, luckily my Patreon book has some crazier stuff in it, so I'm looking forward to talking about that.
Let's go. I'm excited to hear.
But yeah, I just conceptually I just dislike so much of what this is doing. Or I shouldn't even say conceptually, because I think the raw concepts of some of it I could see being done well. It's just the execution, the voice for the character, it's all just not clicking for me. I'll just briefly mention the backup, because honestly there's not much to say. It's just Vandal Savage waking up after the whole meteor thing, and he's immortal again, and he's still living in Wayne Manor. He beats up some thugs, and he puts on a nice suit. That's it. That's the whole thing.
No, the hook that you're missing is because of the amount of meteors that are now situated around Gotham, he can't leave Gotham City limits.
Oh, so okay, sure. Okay.
He's like stuck in his own prison, so now he's going to take over the city because that's his domain, and that's where he puts it back on. And I don't hate it. The idea of turning him essentially into Kingpin of Gotham City, yeah, it's like, okay.
Well, to be fair though, it's not that he can't leave. It's just that he doesn't want to leave all these other meteor bits for other people to find, right?
Well, no. It's when he gets along city limits, he starts to feel weak, as he feels the life force draining from him. Yeah.
I might have rushed this back up. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah. Yeah, because it says, he's a conqueror. His strength, my mind, it all fell away, made me deduce what's wrong. It seems the further I move away from Gotham, the weaker I become. Okay. So it is a nice hook. I like that idea for Vandal Savage, because just having him be an immortal caveman that was, a conqueror and all this, in 2023, what can we do? So the fact that he's stuck in Gotham and now is going to be a thorn in, the Bat family side, I don't hate, but him being in Wayne Manor and stuff, I'm still not a fan of that. That's just, I don't know. It feels like a hat on a hat.
But we'll see. I don't know. But I'm finding it tough to give a shit right now, Matt, with this book. I'm really finding it tough.
I don't blame you. And I like Vandal Savage as a character. I just, I don't like what they did with him in this one. Him trying to rain a meteor down upon Gotham to make everybody immortal. That was a weird flex, man.
Yeah. All right. What are you giving Batman 139?
Oof. This is the art does a lot of the carrying though. So where do I put it? I'll give it a 5.5. Yeah,
I'll give it a 5. They are definitely, obviously, at least makes it pretty to look at. Like, that's always nice. It's always nice. All right. Birds of Prey issue 3, legacy number 201 by my count. We have Kelly Thompson writing with Leonardo Romero on the art. So, yeah, we were just getting to Themyscira last issue, or at least getting to the plan that was going to take them onto the island. We actually get more of that here, although not before the tease of the whatever this thing is. It's going to possess Sin, right? This demon or whatever it is. We actually get that possessing another random Amazon, and basically seeing sort of the almost exorcist looking like face on this woman saying this vessel is unworthy. So it's setting up this idea that this entity is going around Themyscira looking for the right host. So I really like this actually. It was I love that panel at the bottom of the first page of just being like, something scary is coming. Yeah, it's ominous. Yeah. That's a good word.
Yeah. But yeah, let me just Leonardo Romero on the art. It's giving me Kirby vibes. So in this book with Barda and the Amazons and all this other stuff, the kind of squarey, like, I don't want to say the characters are boxy, but there's a boxiness to them that's reminiscent of Jack Kirby's art to me. Really made this a pleasure to read. Just the breakdowns, the way that the characters interact. It gave it this kind of old school DC vibe to, a lot of these new characters, right? Zealot's here. All these characters that aren't, outside of Barda, aren't Jack Kirby. So just when we turn that page and it's got all the purples and the pinks and all of that type of stuff, it just, everything looks great.
It's also reminded me a little bit of the original Birds of Prey run that Dixon did, which honestly, reading these issues has been making me want to go back and keep reading that, because me and Connor had been doing previously in the multiverse for Patreon for like a year or whatever it was, and it was right around the time that he had to get a new job because of the pandemic and everything, and that's where he didn't have as much time to record stuff, and that's why he misses a lot of episodes, and we had to stop doing that show. We got to like issue 9 of that book, and it's making me want to go back and continue where we left off, in some form.
How far did you make it? Do you remember?
Issue 9. So, but to be clear though, there's like a whole trade's worth of content before issue 1, so it's actually a bit more than it sounds, because there's like a 4-issue mini, 2 or 3 big one shots, and then issue 1. So it's a little bit more than what it sounds like. But
got you. Yeah, that's a blind spot. Like I'm aware of it with the whole Babs and Canary and Huntress of it all.
Oh, Huntress it's not even like it's just Babs and Dinah for that early stuff.
Gotcha.
I'm not sure when Huntress does come on full time, but it's not in that first at least couple of years.
That should be a thing I should look into, see if my shop has the collections. So that's something I should knock off.
Sadly, I think the big thick trades that we're doing, they stopped after volume 3 because I don't think they were selling enough.
Man.
But they're all available. I mean, you can get it all digitally if you want.
Digital, yeah.
It's all there.
Well, I always try to get, if I can get something like that, I try to go physical first, just because it's nice to have. But if I have to go digital, so be it.
Yeah. Anywho, Harley's got this crazy plan for the multi-hide inside a megalodon to get onto the island, because all of the teleportation techniques they can't use, because the boom tube's too loud, and then Meridian's thing they can't use either. So
it's too wonky, right? It's
too wonky.
She explains here that she can teleport if she can. It's kind of like Nightcrawler, right? Where Nightcrawler can teleport to where as far as he can see. That's kind of what Meridian can do, but it's a little bit wonkier because it's dealing with dematerialization and all that stuff.
And also, I'm not sure if she can take much of a passenger list with her. Like, it sounds like it might just be like maybe she can grab one person, but that's maybe about it. But yeah, so there's some more banter here, which is really enjoyable. There's a funny moment where Harley's got about to call Barda a big bitch in a sort of endearing way. And Barda kind of says, "Watch it," and she says, "Bisexual icon," referring to herself. I thought that was funny.
Yeah, Thompson's really good at the banter stuff. That's what I enjoyed over in Marvel, reading like was it West Coast Avengers? Yeah, with Kate and all that. It's very similar in that banter. That's fun to read.
Yeah, and hell, they're all saying, but King Shark's a villain. Like, what if he does something and he's like, "Hey, I know what sort of trouble will come down on me if I get any use killed. Everyone's favorite Batman's here." I love that he referred to Cass as everyone's favorite Batman. I got a little pop out of that.
Where's the lie though?
Yeah. So this is how they get onto the island, and they split up. Canary thanks Harley for a crazy plan, but it worked. So they split up, although not before Zealot does something really weird, where she cuts her hand open and puts in a worm,
some kind of worm thing. Yeah, so it looks like she's doing like a Bushido ritual, right? Like, you've seen this in samurai movies, almost like a prayer before the battle. But when it really gets into the intricacy, I always mess up that word. I don't know why I try to say it. But when it gets into the details of it, she's cutting like her hand or putting the worm in there, right? And then rubbing it on sand. And they ask her what she's doing, and it's like, it's. I told you guys I wasn't going to kill any Amazons, and this is going to ensure that I don't. I can't die while we're here, and I can't kill anybody. And in order to show how she can't kill anybody, what does she do, Pete?
She stabs Harley through the stomach with her big sword. And obviously it's a shocking moment at first, but then she pulls out the blade and there's no blood, and it's like, oh, it just magically went through you like it was nothing. So it's like, okay.
It still hurt though. So that was a cool moment too, and it also, it is putting in kind of hurdles storytelling wise on how they're going to get through this without bloodshed, right? Because they're not here to go to war with the Amazons, right? They're here to save Sin. Yeah, so I did like this mechanism.
They're trying to be stealthy as best they can. Harley and Dinah go, because they don't know where Sin's being kept, so they all kind of split up into pairs to go look. And Harley and Sin sort of stealthily take down a couple Amazons. There's a great moment. Barda and Cass are going through kind of the jungle area of the island, and they've Barda fights one, but there's a great moment after this where they're just walking through the jungle, and Barda, or as Cass like holds up her hand, like, oh, there's something here, like I can sense something, and sure enough, we get this kind of forest spirit that kind of is flying around and is made of vines.
Yeah, it's got like a mask, but it's also the same word bubbles as whatever possessed the Amazon in the beginning. It's the same font in the black word bubbles. So I'm wondering if it's one of these kind of, I wouldn't even call this a nature spirit. Whatever one of these spirits are, is this the one that's going around possessing? Because it takes Barda's, her, what's it called? The rod.
Or boomstick.
Yeah. It takes it from her and then leaves them on their way. So that's a weird thing. And
then similar, another part of the forest area, you've got Meridian with Zealot. And Zealot does like a sort of like, be quiet, we're being watched. Almost like, in Jurassic Park.
It's Muldoon.
We're being hunted. Yeah. She's watching us. And sure enough, there's an Amazon in the trees who jumps out. So they all get their own little fight sequences. Zealot, does quite well, and she's like, Meridian says, "Hey, you don't even need that thing that stops you from being killed. You did just fine there." And she points out that it's amazing how different your decisions are when you know you can't die, and that's a kind of an interesting little thing to think about. But Canary and Harley find Sin, who's just sort of chilling in a bedroom. It's not like she's a prisoner; she's just kind of chilling. But Canary's like, no, we have to go. She's happy to see her. It's a nice big hug. But then the alarm starts going off, and this is where one of the reasons why they were being so stealthy is they didn't want to have a confrontation with Wonder Woman. So Canary immediately calls Oliver and says, "Hey, you have to stall Diana." Stall her, please.
And this is why I love Ollie.
Yes.
Ollie is 100% ride or die, going like, Diana's my friend, but in order to help my girlfriend, I will fire arrows at probably the most lethal member of the Justice League and hope for the best. Like, Ollie's my kind of dude.
Yes.
That's all I got.
And apparently Constantine got him a batch of magic arrows, which are supposed to knock down Wonder Woman, right? And he hits her with it, right? And he even points out it was a miracle to even hit one shot off at her. And she's fine, though. She starts, like, hunting Oliver, and Oliver's like, oh, shit. So he's, like, trying to, like, swing across the city. Wonder Woman uses her tiara to cut his rope, and he crash lands on a car, and she's like, Oliver, why are you doing this? And he fires all the magic arrows he has, and they're all just, like, doing nothing. They're doing silly things. Until he eventually hits her with one. He just sort of stabs her in the shoe with one. And it sort of turns her into a bunch of pink butterflies, and she flies away. And I'm like, did that delay her? Or did that actually help her get to Themyscira quicker? Because because at this point, Diana kind of realizes that this is all a distraction. She's just, because she knows there's an alert at Themyscira, and Oliver's just trying to distract her. So the big cliffhanger of the issue is that Diana comes smashing in the wall in Themyscira. There's bricks flying everywhere, and she's like, birds, we need to have some words. And that's your big cliffhanger. I think what I noticed here is that Diana's hair in this last page looked very 80s to me.
It looks like George Perez.
It does. It looks old school Wonder Woman to me.
I love it.
I like that.
I also love Diana's stuff here, her captions, where it says, everyone is obviously afraid of Batman, they should be. Despite everything, everyone is also afraid of Superman. As they should be. Everyone loves Diana, and they should. They should also be very, very afraid. And that's where it ends. I just love that whole vibe. Like, again, it's ominous. We all know that they're probably going to talk it through, but Diana's pissed. And these words, there's going to be a small fight, right? Like,
yeah, I do like that the person they're scared of is another woman. I like that the person they're trying to save from Themyscira is a woman, and even the demon or whatever it is that's tried to possess Sin feels like it might also be female. Not that it always has to be women that are the villains and whatnot in Birds of Prey, but I do think it's a really cool, strong statement to start out with a story where the only male character really we've had Well, with a guest stint from Constantine, I suppose, but it's really just Oliver who's been kind of...
Oliver, King Shark, right? He popped in there.
Oh,
and,
King Shark popped in, true.
You know,
but what I'm trying to say is the prominent players are all women, and I think that's an intentional choice with this first arc. I'm sure, you know, an arc or two down the line we'll have some evil asshole dude who's the villain, because it's very easy to make a villain out of an asshole, but... Yeah, I just think that's kind of nice here. It's like part of why they've made Wonder Woman so intimidating here is because the reverence the others have for her, because they know shit. Even Barda, when Barda's talking about her early on, and someone says, hey, couldn't you take Wonder Woman in a fight? And she's like, maybe, but if she's in a particularly bad mood, probably not. It's like, when the mood she'll probably be in when the alarm goes off saying that we've all invaded Themyscira. Yeah, okay, yeah, let's try and avoid that.
Barda was one of the better female Furies of Apocalypse, right? Like, you know, when she defected because of Scott, you know, that was a big loss for Apocalypse. So for her saying that about Diana too, it's also building her up as this, you know, almost like a force of nature. And we don't get that a lot with Wonder Woman. So, and also just not to bring it back to Ollie, but the part that really made me laugh is he's doing the zipline thing, and just his dialogue is, if it's working, I'll be fine. If it's working, I'll be fine. If it's working, I'll be fine. And then you see the tiara cut it. It's not working as he's plummeting. I just the pacing there, that's on the letterer and the art and the story, all really coming together. So...
Yeah, it's quite funny. He's the joke of the scene, and I think as far as layouts goes, that might be the best start of the issue. Is that whole sequence of Diana looking up, him trying to like go away in the zip line, and then like just the way the panels play out and like the close up of the eyes, and I think it all works really well. It's paced very well, I guess I'm trying to say.
So, but yeah, very, very good book. Leonardo Romero's art too. I am feeling those Kate Bishop stories that I fell in love with during the pandemic, going through and reading all of the Kate Bishop that I could. And so seeing Romero draw all of these characters from DC that I do like is also nice. So I'm glad we have this team working on this book.
Yeah, give Kelly a sign of the ongoing DC. Go on, do it. Do it, you cowards.
Anyway. Yeah, that's why I want to tell them you won't. You know, just challenge them, throw the gauntlet down.
All right, what are you giving Birds of Prey issue 3? I'm
going to give this a 9. I really enjoyed it.
Ooh, I don't know if I'll go quite that high. I'll say 8.5. I think it's a really great issue. I enjoyed the splitting up out of the pairs, the banter. I think they did a good job teasing the scariness of the villain. You know, whoever's trying to possess Sin. That was quite a cool, foreboding intro, and good art and great cliffhanger ending. Really propping up Wonder Woman as the main woman, I guess. Like the main big bitch of the DC universe to say what Harley almost said.
I said, what was it's kind of the same vibe that they had for Emily Blunt in, what was that movie? Not Live, Die, Repeat. What was
Edge of Tomorrow,
Edge of Tomorrow, thank you. Yeah, I just remember the tagline. It was kind of the same kind of vibes, where there's all these hushed whispers, and then we finally see her, you know.
Yeah. It propped her up really nice. It was good stuff. So... all right, Shazam issue 5, Mark Waid writing with Dan Mora on the art, and this was the conclusion to this little mini arc we've had of the Moon and Gargo the Emperor, Ted the gorilla. We'll talk about Ted. Goddamn Ted. What a loser. I think what's interesting about this is that throughout this book so far, the first 4 issues, it kind of just neatly avoided talking about Mary that much. So I was kind of waiting, like, okay, when's it going to be addressed, though, that Mary still has powers because she's got powers from the Amazon gods? And sure enough, this is the issue where she comes swooshing in to save it. Because the cliffhanger from last issue was Billy with no powers floating through space and dying. But, you know, the red whoosh comes in, it's Mary, she saves him, and... I love, well, first of all, the page where you see her properly, the art's gorgeous from Mora, but then the next page, she's like, hey, Billy, come on, like, you know, like, Shazam up here, but I need you to, like, get back to normal, you're kind of struggling here. And the gods, like, I think it's Mercury, because he's his turn to take control of Billy's next. He's like, hey, Zeus, wake this little child up, don't let him die, it's my turn, damn it. And he's like... The rules are, the word has to be spoken. And then it cuts to Mary, and Mary says, okay... Goddesses, I'm not saying this for me, I'm saying it for him. And she says Shazam and then darts out the way. And it just cuts to Zeus and he's like, aye, that'll do.
Close enough.
Close enough.
Yeah.
And he's I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah, the page before where he's got it cocked ready to go and being like, yeah, the rules is the rules. And then when he does throw it and it's like, yeah, close enough.
Yeah, I love the idea that technically it shouldn't really count because Billy's not the one saying it, but the idea that it just cuts to Zeus going like, aye, close enough. Zap. I don't know.
Well,
I just thought it was
and I know
funny.
you're not big on mythology. This is more of a conversation with Connor. That's kind of Zeus in the mythologies too. You know, him being like, I know what the rules are, but I'm Zeus. I do what I want. So that kind of goes in with there too. And then Mercury just looking like a proper scumbag down at the bottom.
Oh yeah,
you know,
that's
looking
smart.
more like Loki than anything. So
yeah, so obviously there's some action here. The Queen Bee wants her. What's the device? What's the big MacGuffin? The generator.
It's like a warp drive.
A warp drive. That
thing.
was it. Yeah. It was some sort of thing like that. And Emperor Gargo is like, "Oh, you're using me, dear. I'm not going to give that over." And she's like, "No, please. I'll make you proper size again." And he's like, "No, you go off to the dungeons with you." But Billy's acting like a shit because Mercury's controlling him. So he's been really juvenile. He's pantsing gorillas. He's doing all sorts of things, right?
I love it.
And then he says to Emperor Gargo that, "Hey, I use my X-ray vision. I know where your warp drive is." And I actually paused and went, I didn't think Shazam had X-ray vision. And then sure enough, a page later, he's like, "Oh no, I tricked you. I don't have any X-ray vision. I just said that so you think I knew where it was." It turns out he was hiding it in his body. He opens his jaw ultra wide and vomits it up. It is disgusting. And Mary and Billy react appropriately. The arts there is really good. Both in the visual of this head, kind of like the jaw almost going completely flat. That's how open it is. And then like
people watching, have you ever seen Anaconda? Remember the end of Anaconda when it throws up John Voight? That's what this is.
Kinda, I guess, but you see like all the green skin kind of wrinkling up as it kind of it's really good stuff. And Billy and Mary don't want to touch it, which actually leads to one of my favorite laughs that I had this issue, and I was laughing a lot in this issue. It's so Billy and Mary are fighting whoever, right? Emperor Queen Bee shows up and starts getting involved again, and the gorillas are just running around, and basically they're saying, let's get back to Earth before this tears us all apart. And it's like, does anyone know where the warp drive is? And Ted the gorilla is just looking at it. It just finds it lying on the ground because it was left there from the previous couple pages. And he says, "Mother of God, fellas, we're back in business." And I laugh, like, I can't believe how much Mark Waid has made me a mark, no pun intended, for this gorilla named Ted and every other gorilla treating him like shit. Because I was cackling every single time someone yelled the name Ted in this.
Yep. Well, because Ted seems like a mess up. And the fact that he made it this far, right, and then it just falls right back into his lap. And then we get the image of the gorillas carrying this thing, right, on the surface of the moon is another one that got me good.
It's a couple pages later, and Ted is the one who trips, obviously.
It eats,
meanwhile, the other kids are at the Rock of Eternity with the dinosaur with the top hat. The
legalese Tyrannosaurus.
Yes, that's the one. And the monocle. Don't forget the monocle.
Yep, don't forget the monocle.
And they're basically, okay, how can we help Billy, even though we don't have powers? And they're talking about missing having powers, but they're trying to figure things out. But they notice that Freddy disappears, and that's a little setup for the ending. So Mary actually figures this all out, right? So the other kids know what's happening with the gods because Freddy found out, right?
Yep.
But Mary, when she's witnessing Billy be a complete little shithead to Emperor Gargo and, like, you know, covering him and what was it he's doing? Yeah, he's basically saying, what should I do, like a super wedgie or what? And Mary's like, wait a minute, you acted like reckless, you know, like Hercules. You acted arrogant. Yeah, like Solomon. And she sort of puts it all together. I don't know if I have laughed as much at a comic that I did the bottom of this page in quite some time, which is she puts this all together and says, that's it, the gods, they're controlling you. and then you just get this panel at the bottom of the page with all the gods just with their eyes all wide open, and I think it's Zeus just says rats, and I was like, this look in their face that they all went, oh shit, she's clocked it. She knows.
Just the point that they thought they were going to get away with everything, right? Because Billy isn't he's not the most observant, right? So of course he's not going to notice, different controllers, whatever. So the fact that they didn't think anyone else was going to notice, that's what all of those faces are. And even Achilles, who you can't see his face, he looks very much like Ares, right? Even his eyes are wide underneath that helm. It's a very good image.
It's very good stuff. It's the art nailing it. The writing here is just pitch perfect funny. This is Mark Waid firing on all goddamn cylinders. I love this issue. And I think what makes sense about this to me as well is that Mary does have her own wisdom from her other gods that she's getting her powers from. She's not sharing the same pool of gods anymore with Billy. So it makes some sense that another character like that who's part of her power set is this extra wisdom. I don't know if they've mapped out what gods are giving her what powers from the Amazons, but
I don't either, but I'm going to look it up while we're talking.
Of course you are.
Because they mention one of them, and it's the Z, right? That's like Zephyrus. So
is it literally going to spell out Shazam again? I assume it is because she still says that.
She still says Shazam, so you would think because Black Adams do, and they're all Egyptian gods that they adapted. So
true. I love this idea that now that Mary's finally in this main Shazam book, and we're going to really prop her up as this other hero with powers that has the full set. Especially since she is the one who can do it. Anyway, so the gorillas are carrying the warp drive, and Ted trips. They drop the warp drive, and it spins up into power. And then the moon starts to spin uncontrollably, and you just see another gorilla yell, "Ted!" And that made me laugh so much. He almost ruined, he almost destroyed the moon, which would probably do hell knows what to Earth's tidal waves and everything else. But basically, Billy has to try and stop the moon from spinning, so he just kind of grabs onto it, uses his powers, and simple enough. Whilst Mary deals with all of the gorillas and the debris and all that flying off of it. All interesting stuff. But again, really good, big, cosmic, super fun, and
So reading this and the Ted stuff, I just immediately, Ted is the Connor of the apes. Because how they're yelling at him is how you yell at him. So,
interesting.
But yeah. That was very funny.
So the final scene is the gods basically saying, okay, what do we do now that he's figured things out? We also let him share the powers with his family for some time. What do we do? And then Billy shows up, and he's in kid form, right? He's no longer in Shazam form. And basically says, enough of this shit. If you're going to control me, then I don't want the powers. Take them away. You'll have no champion on Earth. And they're like, hey, we won't let you share your powers with anyone anymore, right? We'll make it so you can never do that again. And because they're basically trying to guilt him by saying, hey, if you give up the powers, then they'll never have powers again, and you'll be depriving them of that. And then the cliffhanger is that what's his face? Freddy comes in and says, if he doesn't want the powers, then I do. And it's like a betrayal face on Billy at the end. So we might be seeing Billy Shazam, Freddy Shazam next issue.
Freddy, which I guess he would be the Captain Junior, so we call him CJ instead of Captain Marvel Junior.
Something tells me he's not going to want to go by that name, but maybe Mark Waid will make it work somehow.
Yeah.
No, it's interesting. It is kind of funny how we're doing Billy and then into Mary and then Freddy. So it'll be the original three that had powers once upon a time that will have had powers in this run, and then eventually we'll probably get to the whole family having powers again. But I do think that's kind of interesting that he's sort of worked it around that way.
Well, and also Freddy was the one that was duped into being a spy for the gods, right? So it might be a little bit personal. I don't know. Maybe he's got something up his sleeve. Freddy's a pretty loyal friend and brother to Billy. So
I
we'll see,
don't
but
know. It looks like he's betraying him here. He's taking all the power for
maybe.
himself.
Maybe. So I found what Mary's new Shazam is.
Oh, go on.
And it is the agility of Selena, the strength of Hippolyta, the stamina of Artemis, the flight of Zephyrus, the invulnerability of Aurora, and the wisdom of Minerva. So they're all very similar. Stamina, strength, agility. Let's see. One of them's might, I think. So yeah, but wisdom's there, so they're they're all the same. So good on the creatives for still making Shazam work with those
That's interesting.
goddesses. So,
Uh,
but yeah, man, Dan Moore's art here too. Just the face of Billy here at the end. Not the last panel, but as he's looking over at Freddy when Freddy says, "I'll take the powers."
yeah.
Very, very, very good Dan Moore art there.
Yeah, no, the art throughout is fantastic. And again, he's getting to do all this crazy stuff. He's got moons spinning. He's got Mary and Billy using their powers. He's got the gorillas. He's got Queen Bee Gargoyle. We've got a T-Rex with a monocle and a top hat.
Yeah.
Like, he's got such a variety of crazy things to draw, and he makes it all work. And so does Waid. Waid, like, bounces between these crazy ideas, legitimately funny stuff, and also big superheroics. Like, that's stopping the moon spinning was a big Superman style moment, and it felt just as big as that as it should have done without it being taken away from the fact that we've got all these funnier stuff surrounding it. The fact that it happens because that screw up Ted decided to trip and drop the warp drive. It's just, it all works. I was laughing constantly. I think this run was good immediately, but it's really clicking now a few issues in where it's like, okay, like I'm getting the flow of this, I'm getting the vibe of it. Like, I enjoy World's Finest a lot, but I think this is the Mark Waid book at DC right now.
Yeah, it kind of balances that silliness with the superhero action very, very well. So I'm glad to have Mark Waid back.
You say that every time we talk about a Mark Waid book, Matt.
I know. It's still true.
It's been 2 years.
Has it really been 2 years?
It's probably close to it by now.
Oh my goodness. Well, I'm so happy.
I mean, World's Finest is up to it's in the mid-teens at least by now.
That's true.
So it's been a year and a half at least, yeah.
Well,
so.
But yeah, it's because, like, even stuff when Gargo is like, I miss dealing with the Doom Patrol. Stuff like that.
I got a chuckle out of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's good.
So, but yeah.
All right, okay. Well, there you go. What are you rating Shazam issue 5?
8.5.
Yeah, I go with a 9 on this one. I really like this one.
There you
go. So that's that from me. Next up, Poison Ivy issue 16. G. Willow Wilson writing with Marcio Takara on the art. This is Matt flying solo.
Yeah.
Take it away.
Yeah. So Ivy's back. So the last issue, she got out of Undyne's little lair and realized, like, there are different aspects of the green. So here it really focuses on nightmares, but not in like the night terrors. Is that Pam keeps having these nightmares of people that she encountered on her mission to spread the Lamia spores. And because she's having these dreams, she's just like, well, I didn't know them, but they all had lives, and she's almost starting to feel guilt over this. And so it really focuses on this guy that Pam's going to call Chuck because she doesn't know his actual name. And for her, it was just a chance encounter at a gas station, somewhere in Northern California or Idaho, wherever, on her way up to Seattle. But to him, it completely altered and changed his life, and he ends up infected with the spore. And because of the culture that exists in the United States about, you got to go to work, you got to be a hard worker, even though he's dealing with this problem, which is a fungal infection, he's trying to push through and go to work. And he's itching and he's coughing, and his wife's really concerned about him, but he's like, no, I have a job to do. And he ends up working at like what I would guess is like an Amazon distribution place. And so she's talking about how it was very unintended that the Lamia spores, which she could control, right, that they got back out into the wild, and that it was probably through this distribution that it got out, because she didn't mean for them to be as contagious as they were, but turns out, as she says, all the all the best, oh no, what's the old saying? The road to hell is paved with good intentions, right? Is she couldn't, she had all the best intention for all of this, but it went the wrong way. And it ends up that this Chuck guy ends up dying on his way to work, and they can't find him. And his wife's friends are trying to console her, and they're like, well, if they haven't found him, he still might be out there, but if it's so many days, which leads to the wife and kids to be super sad. Ivy realizes that this isn't really a dream. She's having a shared green experience, like she had done with the influencer lady, right? Like they're all tapped into the green and they're all going to the same place. And so this Chuck guy finds her in her dreams, and she's all in the full monstrous Ivy. Takara's art is really spot on here, because when he starts to in the dream, he looks like this kind of zombie mushroom type of dude. But in the real world, where we see him as he's, not decomposing, but he's getting significantly worse, right? As he's getting sicker, he looks more like a traditional zombie. So there's a slight thing there. But Takara's art's really on point. That he sees Ivy in this realm, but it's all psychedelic. Versus where Ivy sees him in the dream, everything's very idyllic. It looks like this beautiful forest clearing with a river and a pond with a waterfall. And Ivy becomes aware that this is a shared experience that she's having with all of these consciousness of the people that she inadvertently infected with the Lamia spore. And she looks over and she sees Undine, who's got the flower face. And he's like, for someone that's been in touch with the green, you're really not figuring this out. Is you don't control the green controls you. I figured this out, and I haven't been at this for long. The longer you fight it, the worse it's going to go. And she's going, you don't understand it like I do. You can't. He's like, well, unintended consequences being what they are, you've opened a whole box, because your Lamia spores that you could control, they've gotten out and they're wild, and they've kind of become their own strain, and they're not quite in your control anymore. Ivy questions if this really is Undine or if it's her own consciousness putting this all together. And as she's kind of waking up from this dream, you see all of these zombies, Lamia zombies, starting to surround Gotham, coming to her. And that's where it ends. It ends with a very creepy, they're coming out of the forest, heading into Gotham. There's also a bit about how she is fearful of Batman, but he's almost like this, because in the last issue, they played him up as this big scary threat, because she's kind of in between. She's not a full-out villain, but she's also, not working with Batman. So they played him up as kind of monstrous. So here, in this parts where they talk about Gotham, he's kind of around in the shadowy kind of way, and it's handled really well. But yeah, this issue is definitely an improvement from the Undine stuff, where she was stuck in that, and she was stuck in the skyscraper. This getting back to the whole green aspect of it all, I really like, and just the idea that she, she's a vessel for the green, not the other way around. It's going to use her, and she's not going to use it. I really, really like. And again, Takara's art, spot on. The colors are all really working in unison. So, yeah, really good issue. I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10.
Okay, cool. Next up, we got Blue Beetle issue 3, Josh Trujillo and Adrián Gutiérrez on the book. And this was also Matt, so Matt's doing... Yeah,
so I got caught up on this one. I read half of the first issue. Had to get caught up on 1 and 2 before I read 3. And essentially what's going on is that in issue 1, we find out that Jaime's friend Brenda is working for Victoria Cord, but she doesn't want him to know that, so everything's kind of done in secret. not the Reach, but the new ones that came. They're not the Sovereign, but anyways, the refugees are set up in Palmyra City. There's a lot of tension in between them, and they're using Natita and Dynasties kind of as a security system to try to do this. In the second issue, there's a new character that comes up that's named the Blood Scarab, and he essentially looks like the Blue Beetle, but he's all entirely in red. And turns out he uses magic, which is a new thing even for Jaime's Scarab. It's like this is older than me, and it feels fear. So this is something that goes back from beyond. Even when Dan Garrett had found the Scarab and its time in Egypt. So that issue ended with Ted Cord going down. Victoria's not happy. Blood Scarab escapes because Jaime can't fight it. It's too powerful. So Jaime reaches out to his ex.
Remind me, Matt.
Sorry.
Victoria Cord.
Yes.
Was the relation to Ted?
That's Ted's sister.
Sister, okay.
Right. Ted's sister. So she was introduced in the Graduation Day mini,
okay.
Where she has taken over Cord Industries, kind of like the CFO. So she deals with the day-to-day, whereas Ted's more of the, research and development side of things.
Okay.
Right. So she's not exactly a villain, but she's definitely an antagonist, because in this one, right, so Jaime realizes that this is, the Blood Scarab had left like runes etched into the floor when it attacked Ted. So he reaches out to the one person that he knows that knows magic, and that's Tracy 13. She's working at the Oblivion Bar. So they go there to talk. He meets Blue Demon. And she's like, yeah, give me some time. We can figure this out. They end up in Egypt in the tomb where Dan Garrett found the original Scarab, and that this goes even beyond the Reach and Jaime and all the stuff that's been going on. Also in the last issue, the Blood Scarab had attacked Shepard Ord, who's one of the refugee leaders, and the only reason he survived is because their anatomy is different. So it's very clear that who's ever in the Blood Scarab isn't an alien, is probably human. But there's also a lot of intensity with the Blood Scarab, and it seems personal. And the fact that so we also find out that the Blood Scarab was the first scarab. It was forged in Egypt, and that with dark magic and kind of the Reach technology, so much that it consumed the pharaoh that had it created, and that's where it ties into the Dan Garrett. Is I guess it ended up the pharaoh character ended up coming back and giving Dan Garrett trouble, right? So as Jaime's trying to figure all of this out, the Blood Scarab attacks Shepard Ord again, but luckily Starfire's there with Dynasties and Natita, and Dynasties ends up taking a big hit, and so it looks like she's down for the count, and Jaime and Tracy 13 show back up in the nick of time for Jaime to basically set up a small defense, and Tracy 13 ends up using a combination of magic with the Reach technology, which is able to help. It was able to help them, but the issue ends with Jaime and Tracy 13 having an argument that Jaime needs to do better, and that yes, he can't kill, but if Blood Scarab is willing to do that, you got to be willing to go to the next level to save the people that you care about. The art here is probably at its best, even back to Graduation Day. We get a lot of like Egyptian temples, but also some sci-fi action, because Jaime ends up when the Blood Scarab attacks. He goes into the Legato form, which is where he goes into the full armor with the big sword arms, and it looks really cool. And the fight with Blood Scarab, like in order to show Jaime fighting, there's these big blue like swoops that take up like the whole page. So he's kind of like omnipresent when he's in this form. But yeah, I'm always happy to see Starfire show up, and the art here is fantastic with her. Her hair's up on all over, and again, a lot like Jaime and Legato form, takes up whole pages. So, but yeah, I'm just double checking because I read this earlier in the week, so it's been a minute. But also, Madame Xanadu. That's who they're going to meet in the Oblivion Bar. I left that part out. Is Tracy 13 takes Jaime to Madame Xanadu, who reads the tarot, and that's where we get the history of the Blood Scarab, and that's what leads them to go search in Egypt. So, really enjoyable. I'm glad I got caught back up. It's doing that kind of. He's no longer a teen. He's still right. He's still trying to find himself in the superhero world, and so it still gives that kind of Spider-Man-y vibe that I always associate with Blue Beetle. And Trujillo's doing a real good job at the characterization. So I'll give this an 8 out of 10.
All right, cool. That'll take me on to a book. Every month on patreon.com/MailFuzzTV. You can make myself or Connor read a book at one of the higher tiers, and I'll be looking at Batman and the Outsiders issue 8 this episode. So, last two issues were the Cryonic Man stuff, and this issue I was promised some Phantom Stranger. The cover promises some Christmas stuff, so it's weird that it's worked out that it's almost at the right time of year. We're just a month early for this, unfortunately, but yeah, this is Mike W. Barr, Jim Aparo, who are working on this one. This is... So, the title page, before the story gets kicked off, is just the Phantom Stranger talking some nonsense about fate and Christmas and whatnot. But it looks like there's a bunch of children in nappies, or diapers, sorry, for the Americans, attacking the Outsiders. And I went, okay, what's this? What's happening? So the story starts, it's a snowy day, there's a young couple, the woman's pregnant, and they're talking about Christmas and that she's due soon, and it's just friendly banter. But when they're getting home, they notice there's a police car, and they think, is that outside our house? And they're like, no, it's our neighbor. And they go up and they find out that their neighbor, their neighbor's baby has been taken, right? They're gone. And the police are there trying to figure out who's kidnapped the baby. And then the red-headed, mustached cop shows up, and Batman's there. And so Batman's working the case. They're trying to figure out what happened. This woman just remembers getting knocked in the head, and then she woke up and her baby was gone. I said, okay, fair enough. Batman grapples off. We see some of the other Outsiders doing some Christmassy stuff. Katana's with Halo buying Christmas presents. So that's a thing. The Outsiders are training back at the Batcave, honing their skills. Except Black Lightning, who's at the cemetery looking at the gravestone of, was it Trina Shelton, the woman he feels responsible for killing. And just as he's leaving, this older couple arrive at the cemetery. And this is actually not even for this issue, really. This is more setting up the next issue. But the older couple turn out to be the Shelton's parents, and they're handing over a contract to New Wave, a member of the Masters of Disaster, which is a great name, might I add. They're hiring them to kill Black Lightning. So that's actually setting up the plot for the next issue. And I know it's the next issue because when I got to the end, it says next time Masters of Disaster. So, yeah, at least my deduction leads me to believe that.
Yes.
But here's the thing. This old man shows up in police custody, right? He shows up to the hospital, and the police arrest him because he has fingerprints that match the crime scene where the baby was taken. And Batman's here, and he's like, that doesn't make a lot of sense. This man can barely walk. He's really old and weak. And he's like, yeah, that's strange. How do we do this? So Batman's just grappling around after he leaves the building, and he thinks he sees the Phantom Stranger. And the Phantom Stranger kind of like gives him some like hints. He's like, trust your instincts, Batman. They might lead to something, whatever. And then Phantom Stranger, and for lack of a better term, he Batmans out the scene, and Batman's like, whoa, where'd he go? I could have sworn I just saw the Phantom Stranger sitting there. So this is setting things up. And basically what Batman goes and does is he checks the fingerprints of the old man to the fingerprints taken of the baby, which, by the way, I'm pretty sure they don't take fingerprints of babies when they're born, but sure enough, I'll go.
I mean, there are handprints and stuff, though.
Is there? Okay.
So, yeah. But I don't know if they're like fingerprinting, like they're looking for a crime.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It might just be like a, new hand stamp type deal.
Yeah. But he discovers that they're the same. That this old man is the baby, who's somehow 85 years old now. It's like, okay, all right. So we're getting weird. I like it. There's some more character stuff here. Metamorphos try to call, what's her name? Sapphire. And Simon Stagg's like, get off the phone, you bum. So he's sad about that. Brian's trying to call Markovia because he wants to talk to his brother, but the phone operator's like, sorry, everything's busy, we can't let you through. So he's sad about that. Everyone's sad. It's a sad Christmas for the outsiders.
Oh, man.
Okay? So then we cut to it's like a nursery, and a bunch of kids have all turned into old age people. And basically this woman who was looking after the kids basically just turned around and they'd all turned into old people, and she doesn't know what happened. So this is where Phantom Stranger shows up, actually talks to Batman a little bit, and sort of says something weird's going on here. We have to investigate this further. The next best guess is that it happened to one, now it's happened to like a dozen kids. The next logical target is the children's hospital that's got hundreds of patients in it, so that's where they're probably going to go next. And then when he disappears out the scene, Batman walks off with a smirk in his face, and he says, I wonder if my disappearances shake people up just like that. I hope so. So the writing's actually acknowledging that what Phantom Stranger just did was Batman out of the scene, and Batman's respected it and saying, oh, I hope I freak people out like that when I do it. So that's all good fun. So they go to the hospital the next day, they're all kind of staking it out. Geoforce actually is flying over the traffic, and the couple from the start of the issue with the pregnant woman are in labor, and they ask for his help to get to the hospital, so he flies the car to the hospital. And this is where things... Pardon me.
Ooh, Gesundheit.
This is where things get a bit weird. And I was not prepared for some of the downright David Lynch panels that I was I was about to get here. So she's taking...
Are we which David Lynch are we talking about? Are we talking Twin Peaks or are we talking Eraserhead?
I don't know. I wasn't trying to be that specific.
Okay, gotcha.
But she's taken to the delivery room, right? And she gives birth to what looks like a 12-year-old, but the 12-year-old is like floating upside down, naked. So you see he's like naked tush from behind as he's floating, and he's like thinking to himself, you will not touch me, doctor, much less strike me unless I wish you to. I will now turn into my true form. And then, so you get this like evil looking child and like beams of light coming off of him. And then the next page, he turns into Tanarak, who I got from the context of this issue is a Phantom Stranger villain that I did not know. But
also one of the Lords of Chaos.
Yes.
So
basically what Tanarak's been doing is that the last time he fought Phantom Stranger, apparently Stranger won the fight by using magic that basically made him age into oblivion, where he de-aged and then disappeared. But the spirit of Tamarak, has been feeding off the youth of children, which is what's turning all these kids old, until he found the right host to actually just straight up take over. And that's what's happened here with this childbirth. But some of the visuals of this childbirth and then him turning into Tanarak were outrageous, and I couldn't believe my eyes. I was baffled. So basically he starts like sending out a signal which controls all of the children in the children's hospital, and that's how he takes on the outsiders, is that all of these toddlers in diapers all come running at the outsiders, and Geoforce and Black Lightning are like, how do we fight this, Batman? We can't punch them. What do we do? What do we do? And Black Lightning's even thinking, oh god, what if I kill one of them too? So he's still not over the whole killing someone thing. He's very much in a bad place. But they have to try and detain them. So Metamorpho makes a cage. Katana tries to wave her shiny sword at them so that they'll be distracted by it. It's very absurd. It's a very absurd premise that we dive into in the back half of this issue. Tanarak's fighting Phantom Stranger. And this is where it gets actually kind of dark as well, is that Phantom Stranger is fighting him, and Tanarak basically says, look, to destroy me, you'd have to destroy the host that I've taken. So that would mean killing this innocent child that's just been born, and you won't do that. And Phantom Stranger just replies with, well, I don't want to do that, but if you're going to keep, aging up all these innocent children, which could turn into thousands, if not millions, down the line, then one life is worth that. And then he just, he zaps him in the face or whatever, and it looks like Tanarak's face disintegrates, and it's like it's fallen away. It's actually quite a grim looking image for the type of art that it is. And then that magically takes all the old people who were kids, turns them back into kids. It reverses everything. So it's a pretty happy ending. But of course I'm thinking, but this young couple just, in fact,
they gave birth to a 12-year-old freak.
There's and then he died, and then Phantom Stranger had to kill him. And there's even a reaction panel of the mum who's lying on the bed still crying, saying, no, he's still my baby. And then you see him die, and I'm like, this issue is absurd. I've seen so much weird stuff. I've seen weird childbirth. I've seen babies fighting the outsiders. Now I'm seeing this woman crying that her baby's being killed by the Phantom Stranger because an evil guy's possessed them.
And this is part of the Christmas event, right?
This is the Christmas issue, yes.
Yep.
Right. Luckily, though, the next page, the doctor says, hey, wait a minute, she's about to give birth again. And I'm like, oh, maybe she was having twins. And I thought, that's still quite dark, though. If she was meant to have two, then it's still dark that one's dead. But then the doctor says, no, she was definitely only pregnant with one child beforehand. She wasn't pregnant with twins. And then Phantom Stranger says, well, perhaps fate stepped in to balance things out on this occasion. And I went, well, that's lucky for you, Phantom Stranger, because you're the one who killed the little shit.
God, Phantom Stranger kind of sucks.
I know. So, basically, it ends with the outsiders all just going and looking at the maternity ward and being happy they saved all the children. There is a brief moment here where Halo goes up to Phantom Stranger and says, hey, can you give me my memory back? And Phantom Stranger's just like, sorry, no, and leaves. I'm shortening it a bit, but that was the gist of it.
I can, deteriorate Tanarak into dust, but I can't give you that back.
This was a wild issue. The first half was fun for all the Christmas vibes and stuff, but once you get to the second half, the plot is insane. But I can't lie, that made it entertaining. I was laughing hysterically at how absurd it was, and was enjoying the insanity of it all. Also, actually, I glossed over this before. So when they're all in the hospital undercover, right, and then the childbirth happens, the outsiders who are around the hospital all come running to that ward, right? And they're all in disguise, right? So Metamorpho looks like a regular guy with a hat on, and Halo's got a red coat on, and so on and so on, right? And they're running with this doctor who's like a doctor in a white suit, and he's got a bald head. And Metamorpho says, hey, mister, why are you with us? The next panel, the face rips off, and it's Batman already wearing his cowl. And all I could think was, where were the ears? The cowl ears are there.
He did an Ethan Hunt reveal, but he was already in the suit. Oh my god, that's so funny. I love it. 10 out of 10. Do you know what? There's this thing that old comics have. There's this weird line they ride where
there's parts of them that are genuinely great, and they really pay attention to characters and stuff. But there's also these little things like this, which are so stupid, but because they're of the time, they're so endearing, where you're like, you know what, I can't help but love that they just did that. It's stupid, it doesn't make any sense, and if a modern comic pulled this, I'd be critiquing it to shit. But in this comic, I laughed, I was into it, I was like, yes, give me more.
Yeah, it gives it a thing of like nobody's paying attention, right? We're just gonna do this, and no one's gonna stop us. Because it had to have been a choice, right? To draw, the cowl on Batman after he pulls off the face, right?
Yeah. It's wild, right? Yeah. I can't really say it, but obviously I love the art of that panel. That was great. All the crazy, like, wild concept panels were entertaining as well. That was great. I had a great time. Like, there's definitely some stuff in it that I can laugh at, some intentional, some just weird oddities of the time that I also enjoy for what they are, but are definitely weird by today's standards. But this is probably the craziest issue I've read of this book so far, but I can't say I didn't enjoy it. It says next time the Masters of Disaster and a Halo solo story. So I don't know if they're splitting it into like a main and a backup next issue, but that's what's coming. So yeah. Also, the Masters of Disaster seem to have a cold-based villain. I'm not sure if that's just an old costume for someone that I already know, like an icicle or something like that, or if I'm about to learn about the 11th cold-based villain that DC have. But we'll find out.
Do you want to know, or do you want to find out?
I gotta tell me if you know. If you happen to know.
I feel like this is why this book was given to you. Because that's the first appearance of the one and the only.
Oh no.
Cold Snap.
Yes. Do you know what's really sad is that the outfit here is... It's like a cross between Captain Cold and Cyclops from the X-Men. Like, that's what this outfit is that he's wearing. Just based on the cover for the next one. Okay, I can't wait. We got the first appearance of Cold Snap next issue, everyone. Buckle in, fasten your seatbelts, because this is Comics From The Multiverse royalty coming in next time.
So when you brought up Master of Disaster, I went to the next issue. We always have one of the wikis open. And I was like, Masters, and I saw the name, and I was like, I couldn't wait to tell you, but I didn't want to spoil it for you. Yes, first appearance of Cold Snap. And again, I feel like this is why you're given Batman and the Outsiders.
Very possibly.
It was all the build to Cold Snap.
Very, you know what? I'm not against it. Well, there you go. What do I rate an issue like that?
I mean, it sounds to me like a 10.
I mean, I'll probably just give it an 8, I think, because I really enjoyed it, but some of it's kind of weird and silly, but I appreciate it for that fact. I need to keep some perspective here, but I had a good time. So that's the important part, is the laughs we had along the way. So that'll take us out to the final part of the show, where we pick our favorite stuff of the week, panel / moment, cover, art, all that stuff. Usually top 5 books, but it's really just top. Well, you could do a top 5, but I'll have a top 3. So, what are you doing for panel / moment of the week, Matt?
Man, Birds of Prey had some good ones. Blue Beetle had a really good one.
I know what mine is. I was going to say it. It's Ted dropping the warp drive and causing the moon to almost explode. That's mine.
Yeah. I'll go with. I'll go from Birds of Prey, where they talk about the favorite Batman, and it's who was that? King Shark says that, right? Yeah, I'll go with that. That was a fun light moment.
Yeah, that's good stuff. Cover wise, there's a nice Del cover of Batman. There's a couple of good Batman covers actually. There's an action figure one, which I guess we can't really count as art per se, but it's funny all the same. There's a few good Shazam ones.
The Barrio Nuevo with the shark with Shazam.
Yeah, that's fun. Although I think my favorite is probably the Federici Shazam cover, which is Shazam just sort of folding his arms, but it's a really, really nice piece of art. I think that's my pick. What do you got?
Yeah. I'm checking the other Ivy ones to
There's
see.
There's a Otto Schmidt Birds of Prey, which is obviously worth mention.
Yep, and there's also the Otto Schmidt Poison Ivy, done in a similar style, but with Pam. Yeah, so I think I'm going to pick the regular Birds of Prey cover. I like that it's got the birds, and it's got the lasso looking like a noose with Wonder Woman in the foreground. You just see her hand, and but yeah, that was a good one too.
Yeah. So art of the week. What you got?
I mean, this one, all of them were good. All 5 books that I read had fantastic art. I like Takara. Gutiérrez for Blue Beetle was also really solid, but I think I'm going to give it to Mora just for the different things. You know, Mary Marvel looks great. You got the T-Rex, you got the apes, you got Cargo, you have Queen Bee. You know, it's all very, very solid.
Yeah, I'm going with Mora. It wasn't too difficult to pick. I liked all the art I read this week, but that was the standout for me. All right, rank your books, Matt.
All right, 1's gonna be Birds, 2 Shazam, 3 is Beetle, 4 is Ivy, 5 is Batman.
Well, mine's is easy. 1's Shazam, 2's Birds of Prey, and 3, a distant 3, might I add, is Batman. So there you go. I will tell you what's coming out next week from DC Comics. So we have Detective Comics 1077, Batman and Robin issue 3, Green Lantern issue 5, World's Finest Teen Titans issue 5, Superman Lost issue 8, Danger Street issue 11, Wesley Dodds The Sandman issue 2, The Vigil issue 6, Wildcats issue 12, Outsiders issue 1, speaking of Outsiders, Speed Force issue 1's also out next week, and also Looney Tunes 275 if that's your thing. So yeah, much more healthier list of books for next week.
Boy, I gotta get caught up because I missed that week last month.
You did, because
I have a Titans, I have a Sandman.
I was sad not having you to talk about Danger Street with, so I'm looking forward to that. Sandman has the Rosmo art, but I did quite like the story, so we'll see how you feel about it when you dive in. But at least you can start on those before they come out. On Tuesday.
Before Tuesday. Yeah, I'll probably, depending on what's going on the rest of the day, I might dive in those so I'm not buried this week.
Yeah, that sounds smart. But yeah, go 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I've got 9 books next week, man. Yeah, big difference from this week. So we'll see you next week for all of those. And of course, you can support everything by simply hitting the like button on YouTube or give us a 5-star rating on your podcast app of choice. But the main thing you can do, of course, is go to patreon.com/MailFuzzTV and support us over there for a little bit of money every month. $5 and up, you get early access to the show whenever it's ready on the Saturday night, which varies depending on how long the episode is and how long the editing takes and all the rest of it. But it'll be there for you, if nothing else, early Sunday morning before everyone else gets their hands on it. But any and all help is appreciated. It keeps the lights on, it keeps the books coming, and we keep doing the show. So that is Comics from the Multiverse. Thank you very much for joining us. Check out the other content I make via MailFuzz Movies and MailFuzz TV, various movie podcasts, various TV episode reviews, things like that. The movie podcasts all have podcast feeds. The TV reviews do not, because there'd be too many podcast feeds, but you can go check out those if you like. But that is the show. So thank you once again for watching or listening. I always appreciate it. Keep reading. Sorry, I'm in autopilot because I mentioned movies and TV. Keep reading DC Comics, and remember to never get lost in the Speed Force.